Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Suzie. I am your host, and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, who submits questions for the podcast, and who rates the podcast on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen. I truly appreciate this as it allows more people to find this information and hopefully give them some help and some guidance navigating their way through their spiritual journey. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you all. Today, I want to talk about meditation. Meditation is something that you will hear a lot about on your spiritual journey. You may be trying to do some meditation, and meditation is something that I have been working with since I was a child. For those of you who know a little bit about my background, my mum is initiated into a specific Eastern tradition in which meditation is a core practice that they use. So I have been around meditators all of my life. I would love to say that I have been meditating all of my life, but I definitely have had periods where I maybe haven't been practicing as much as possible. And I am a huge fan of meditation from a spiritual development perspective when it is appropriate. And that isn't always the case. And we're going to get into that a little bit today. First of all, I want to define meditation. And I actually found a really good definition of what meditation is on Wikipedia. So I just want to read that out to you now. So, according to Wikipedia, meditation is any practice that uses a technique to train attention and awareness and detach from reflexive, discursive thinking. And I love this definition because it's referring to any practice or any technique that is going to allow you to do that. And this is really important because I think there is an underlying belief that meditation can only be done in a specific posture, in a specific location, in a specific way. And there's actually lots of different types of meditation that I want to go through today. The reason I want to go through this is not every form of meditation is going to suit you. We're all individual and unique. We're all going to have worked with different practices, different paths, different systems throughout our many, many incarnations. And what I see a lot of the time when I'm doing work in people's Akashic records or when they're learning how to do their own Akashic records is the paths and practices that they are drawn to in this lifetime are a continuation of paths and practices that they have been involved in a previous lifetime. You will have heard me say before, from the Akashic Records perspective, 100 years on Earth is a blink of an eye. From the perspective of the soul, one lifetime is only a very short amount of time, so we're often building on our previous incarnations. And when you start to honor that and you stop trying to force yourself into a path or a practice or a system that you don't have any energetic connection with, it can really open up those gifts, those skills, and help you move into much more of an expansive state. So understanding which type of meditation that works best for you is very important. I'm going to go through today different types of meditation that I have come across on my journey and some tips in respect if you're wanting to maybe start meditating or you've maybe fallen off the meditation wagon and you want to get back onto it. So meditation is any practice that is designed to help you to become connected to or remind you of the fact that you are the observer. You are witness consciousness. You are witnessing your thoughts. You are witnessing your emotions. But you are not your thoughts or your emotions. I will caveat here that I am not a meditation teacher. I do teach you how to access your Akashic records through meditation. It's one of the methods that I teach in my level 1 class, but it's only suitable for those of you who are very strong meditators and that you know where you're going in meditation, as in you know how to get through the astral plane into the higher spiritual planes. I do not teach meditation. And For those of you who are listening who are maybe thinking about joining the next level 1 class, don't panic if you're like, I do not meditate, but I'd love to access my Akashic records. It's okay. In level 1, I also teach a prayer method. So we use a sacred prayer that is designed to help shift you into your Akashic records without having to do any meditation. So please don't panic if you hear this. I teach 2 methods in my level 1. Before we get into the different types of meditation, I also want to acknowledge that meditation isn't always suitable, and meditation isn't always the most suitable practice for you on your spiritual journey. In cases where you are suffering from anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, or chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, meditation might not be what's suitable for you. So please don't think, if you have tried meditation or you've found meditation very difficult, that there's something wrong with you. It may be that it's not the most suited practice. And I'm sure if you reach out to a meditation teacher and you explain what your situation is, they can recommend whether or not meditation is the most suitable practice for you. But it isn't always the case that meditation is the practice that you need. I know a lot of the time on the spiritual journey, you'll hear people talk about these amazing experiences they have or how much they meditate. And you can think to yourself, oh, well, for me to expand and develop spiritually, I have to meditate. And whilst meditation is a great practice and it's going to help you in a lot of different ways, you have to also listen to yourself. And it may be that there are alternative practices that are going to help you go through whichever stage it is that you're going through. So do make sure that if you're going to start practicing meditation, if you have any concerns about it, that you reach out to a meditation teacher and just see whether or not it's going to be suitable for you or the best thing for you at this time. With all of that being said, there are many, many different types of meditative practices or practices of meditation. And if you are following a specific spiritual tradition and they have prescribed you a specific type of meditation, that's completely fine. But a lot of the time, people aren't following a specific path or tradition. They just come across this term meditation, they see all these different types, and they get a little bit overwhelmed as to what they're supposed to be doing and which one is best for them. So I'm going to go through some of the types of meditation, and then I'm going to go through ways that maybe you can feel into what's the best practice for me. To start with, we have the very traditional methods of meditation, such as Vipassana, which is a Buddhist mindfulness meditation technique where you're going to be observing your thoughts and emotions exactly as they are. So you're not going to try and change anything. You're just going to be very observational. And you'll see with the Vipassana practice that oftentimes there's these 10-day Vipassana retreats, which can be very, very intense for beginners. So definitely if you're going to go down the Vipassana route, don't start with a 10-day retreat, start with a daily practice. Another type of traditional practice which is associated with Buddhism is a Zazen practice. And this is another type of meditation technique with the intention behind the practice of seeking to experience the void. I can talk about that in a different episode if that's of interest to you, but this is a very strict and disciplined practice that is taught within specific Buddhist traditions. Another type of Buddhist practice, which is a bit gentler, is metta meditations. Metta, M-E-T-T-A, not metta as in Mark Zuckerberg. And this is more of the loving kindness meditation. And you'll see with metta meditation, another form is the Lojong teachings. And Pema Chödrön talks a lot about the Lojong practice and the teachings that go with that. And I definitely recommend her work if you are feeling drawn to a gentler, more love-focused meditation practice. And the purpose of the metta meditation is to connect to that unconditional love within you. And to not only connect to unconditional love for yourself, but also to expand that loving kindness to all beings. It's a very collective consciousness approach to raising the frequency not only of yourself, but also all humankind. Okay, so those are the more traditional types of meditation. As I said, you may be following another type of path which has a specific prescribed meditation practice, and that's completely okay. Understand that there are different prescribed meditation practices within different paths. Now, you also may come across meditations in which you are asked to focus. So these would be a focused meditation, and this is really try to bring your energy and attention to a focal point and to hold it in place. We all know that when we sit to meditate, the monkey mind, as they will call it in meditative practices, is jumping about, it's busy, there's lots going on. So oftentimes it can be helpful for people to have a point of focus. This could be candle gazing, it could be focusing on specific yantras, it could be focusing on specific symbols. And oftentimes what happens with these focused meditations is that you're going to awaken certain things within you. So this is very normal when you're focusing on yantras or symbols. They are designed to awaken and activate energies within you. But it can take a while with the focused form of meditation to get to the stage of the activations. A similar meditation that you can do, similar to the focused form, is to focus on the chakra system. And you'll see lots of different chakra meditations out there. So you're focusing your energy and attention on the chakra system or a specific chakra. Always remember that the chakras form part of a larger system. So yes, you can focus your energy and attention on, say, the root chakra, if you know that's the area of imbalance that you're wanting to work with, but it is part of a larger system. Another form of meditation that is quite popular now is visualization. So for those of you who have that inner vision, you're very connected and open in your third eye, visualization meditations can be quite helpful. And this is where you're going to visualize a specific scenario, or you're going to visualize whatever it is the person dictating the meditation has told you to visualize. Now, I do want to just put a quick note in here about visualization meditations. Is a lot of the visualization meditations out there are actually just a form of self-hypnosis. So they can be great, they can be an interesting experience, but meditation and getting yourself into a meditative state is different to self-hypnosis. And what I see with a lot of the visualization meditations that are out there, they're actually just self-hypnosis, which is a different thing. Mantra meditation is a very popular one, and this again is repetition of a mantra, usually in Sanskrit, because of the energetic frequency of the words in Sanskrit and what they connect to. But repetition of a mantra. Now, if it's done out loud, it's mantra meditation. If it's done internally repetitively, it tends to be more of a transcendental meditation, which is a whole different story. But this repetition of this phrase, again, what you're doing when you're repeating this phrase is you're trying to connect to specific energies in the higher spiritual realms that are connected to the mantra that you're using. You're trying to focus your energy and attention and awareness on that single point of that mantra to put yourself into a meditative state. I'd like to give a special mention to Yoga Nidra. So Yoga Nidra is a practice where you're going to focus on the audio, and the audio is going to tell you to focus your attention and energy on specific body parts. And I want to give this one a special shout out because I find that for people who are very overwhelmed energetically in their higher chakras, so this presents as lots of overthinking, not being able to make any decisions, too much energy and too much information being consumed. Yoga Nidra is a great form of meditation that is going to help you reconnect to the body. And this is especially important when you've got lots and lots of your life force energy flowing around in those higher chakras. I see this so often with people where they're essentially disconnected from their body. They're disconnected from those lower primary chakras, usually because there is a lot of energetic stagnation there from stuff they've experienced in this lifetime, past lifetimes, ancestral stuff. And this can be a really good way for them to be able to meditate and get out of that overthinking, spiraling scenario. It's also a really good practice for those of you who are dual missioned. So if you're busy in the astral plane when you go to sleep, if you also have taken on a mission in the astral plane when you go to sleep, and you wake up and you just don't feel rested. You may have been asleep for 8 hours, but you know you've been busy in that astral plane. This is someone who's dual missioned. They've taken on more than one job, and this is what those more advanced souls tend to do. Yoga Nidra can offer you actual rest during the day. So Yoga Nidra has been studied as a practice, and I believe, I could be wrong here, I'm sure there's a statistic out there that I've heard, that 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra is the equivalent to 4 hours of deep sleep. So this is definitely one that you want to practice if you're an overthinker, if you're spiraling thought-wise, if you know you've got a lot of energy in those higher chakras, or if you are someone who is dual missioned. Now, oftentimes we hear meditation and we think it has to be static. I have to sit in a posture and I have to focus. And these are great meditation practices. I'm not dismissing them. But a lot of the time, especially for people who are not connected to their body, and you know I'm all about being embodied on the spiritual journey, actually what can be very helpful is adding some movement in for your meditative practice. So whether this is a walking meditation, whether this is Qigong or practices like yoga or even going to the gym, okay? Anything where you're bringing your attention and awareness into that state of observer consciousness is meditation. And a lot of the time, especially if you're just getting started on your meditation journey, the prospect of sitting on a mat or sitting on a cushion and sitting there for 30 minutes and observing your thoughts can be very overwhelming. So people put it off. But easing yourself in through these active forms of meditations can actually be very helpful, and they can help you connect into that body. We are not here to escape the body, okay? The body is divine, and we are here to connect to it and operate through it. So if you're finding that you're embodied, adding some movement into your meditation practice can be really helpful, and it can be very, very effective. Now, on that point of seated meditation, what you'll often find is that a lot of these practices and traditions were designed by men for men. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of you who are listening are in female bodies in this lifetime. And actually what I find a lot with clients, and when we look in their Akashic records, the recommendation is actually to meditate lying down. Obviously here we have the potentiality of falling asleep while we're meditating, so it can be a little bit more difficult, but actually this can be really, really helpful and beneficial if you're in a female body. So if you, again, you're struggling to sit in meditation, but you want to do a static form, try lying down. There's reasons why this works better from an energy body's perspective, which I won't get into here today because we'll be here all day, but it's definitely worth trying. What you have to remember when you're doing meditation is you're working with both the upward spiritualization force, our life force energy, our prana, our chi, flows up. That's the spiritualization force. And this is designed to bring stuff up essentially from those lower chakras for transmutation. And transmutation happens in the heart. So a lot of meditation practices are designed to really stimulate and work with that upward spiritualization flow. What we see a lot of the time, though, is the downward materialization flow of the prana being ignored. And this is really key, because that downward materialization force helps us to bring stuff from the higher consciousness, from higher dimensions and actually bring it into physical reality. And to connect to the materialization, so that downward flow, this is where you need those practices that are going to help you connect to your body. Okay, so it's not just the up and out that we need to be working on, it's the down and in. Always remember that if you've been doing a lot of the up and out meditations, then maybe add some of those body-based practices in to see if it's going to help. Maybe add a walking meditation in or a Qigong practice. It's really going to help. We always want to be working with balance. There is a law of balance, which I'll do a whole podcast episode on, that is in operation at all times. And we want to ensure that we are working with that law. So we want our higher chakras to be balanced with our lower chakras. We want our energies to be balanced. We want the materialization energies to be balanced with the spiritualization energies. This balance is essential for operating on planet Earth in an expanded state, which means you're able to connect into those higher dimensions, but you're actually able to bring stuff in and start making those changes in your life and the lives of everybody around you. Okay, so we've covered all the different types of meditation that I could think of. I'm sure there are more. If you have a particular favorite meditation practice that you like to do, feel free to leave it in the comments of the podcast and maybe people can try different things. But I wanted to give you some tips for those of you who are maybe starting a meditation practice, who are getting back onto the meditation wagon after some time off. First tip is to try a few of the different types of meditation, unless you're following a prescribed path, and see what you enjoy. You want to look forward to your meditation. I absolutely love my meditation practice. It's what I will do no matter what is happening in my day. My meditation practice is completely sacred to me, and I absolutely love it. It's much easier to stick to something if you actually enjoy it. Okay? Now, once you have tried a few and you found one that, you find really beneficial, stick with that type for at least 6 months. I know this is going to make some of you roll your eyes. And in our quick fix society, we don't want to stick with anything. We want those quick fixes. But you actually have to stick with a practice and be consistent with a practice for at least 6 months to see any benefits from it. This is why trying a few and seeing what you really like is important, because then you're going to be able to commit to that 6 months minimum. You're not going to see real results after doing a practice 3 times. You need to have that consistent practice. Now, once you have tried a few, you've picked what you're going to do, you've committed to it, and you're going to be consistent, have a meditation journal. So a journal just for your meditation practice, and have this to pay attention to what comes up during the meditation. Now, this isn't to, whilst you're in your meditation practice, to then sit and be journaling. This isn't that. This is to do your meditation practice, and then when you have finished your practice, to just make a note of different things that have come up, different sensations, repetitive thoughts that are coming up that are, maybe programs that you need to work on deprogramming, but have it as just a place that you can start to keep a log of what's happening. Doesn't have to be for anybody else's view. It doesn't have to be well written. Just note down anything, but do it after the practice is finished. Next tip, of course, is what I've already mentioned, which is make sure you have practices that are going to keep you in balance. So learn where you're out of balance and then focus on practices that are going to bring you into balance. Very, very important. And then finally, be really, really, really kind to yourself whilst you're practicing meditation. Meditation can bring up a lot of stuff, and we're often very harsh towards ourselves. Our ego never wants us to come out of the comfort zone. Our ego wants us to stay in the comfort zone where you believe you are separate, you are not a fractal of divine consciousness. It wants you to think that you're all by yourself and you're separate, and it's going to look after you while you're in your comfort zone. Meditation is going to start pushing the edges of that comfort zone, and it's going to bring stuff up that is potentially limiting or hindering your expansion. So it's really important to know that that's going to happen. And then to be really kind when it does happen. We're not going to sit and say, I'm so useless, I can't do meditation, I'm such a bad person, why do I have all of these crazy thoughts coming up, I'm such a waste of time. This is just not helpful behavior. Paying attention to what comes up, acknowledging it, and remembering that ultimately you are seated in that witness consciousness for that time. So you get to choose whether or not you attach to those thoughts and that information that's coming through, or if you just acknowledge it and allow it to move through. I hope you have found this episode helpful. As I said, meditation is one of my favorite practices ever, and I will mix things up myself. Sometimes my meditation practice will be a traditional form of meditation. Sometimes it will be a nice long walk out in nature. Sometimes it will be Yoga Nidra. I go with whatever is necessary for me, and I have been meditating on and off for about 30 years. So I'm not a meditation teacher. I've given you my opinion, my perspective on all of this. So of course, feel free to take it or leave it. And if in doubt, do go and find yourself a meditation teacher who can help you decide what type of practice is best for you and help you navigate through this. But I hope today's episode has just given you some clarity of when you hear people talking about meditation, what it is, and the different types that there are out there. I look forward to seeing you all next week for the next episode.